This video has been kindly sponsored by Squarespace. In the past, I've challenged myself to crochet an entire outfit as a beginner and gradually learned how to crochet clothes, forcing myself to push through my limited skills in order to do so. Now that I've gotten the hang of crochet, I've decided to attempt this with knitting. I've slowly been gaining skills in knitting, so I believe it's time to officially attempt to knit an entire outfit. Yesterday, I attempted to design some of the pieces for the outfit, but I was struggling a bit, not only with figuring out the pieces I want to make, but also the color schemes to go with those pieces. So for the bottoms, I was thinking of doing a maxi skirt since I've done 2 crochet ones in the past and I really want to see how a knitted maxi skirt would look, especially with like the different ruffle sections that I usually do. So for this one right here, I was thinking of using this gradient purple yarn, which I think would be pretty cute, but I'm still just not sure. This orange one right here, I would use this yarn right here. I really like the textures in this yarn, and I think it would be really cute. And if I can't decide on the color, then I'm just thinking about making an all white skirt, which would be very beautiful, especially with all the ruffles. For the top, I was thinking of a design like this. It's kind of designed like a cardigan, but there's 3 bows that hold it in different sections. Here's the inspo pic, so I don't have to explain everything, but I think this would be really cute and it would go really well with the maxi skirt, depending on the colors that I choose. And then I was also thinking, if I don't want to do that previous top that I showed, I could just do a raglan crop top with maybe a duplicate stitch design in the middle. But as you can see, I haven't really figured out what design I want to do or what colors exactly, because it mainly depends on the colors that I choose for the maxi skirt, which most likely I'm going to do first. And I also made outlines for a knit bag to go with the outfit, so it'd be the skirt, the top, and the bag, and that would be a completed outfit. So mainly right now, I'm just trying to figure out what colors to use, and I can't choose. Usually I'm like, okay, I'll just do this one and do that. But right now I'm just very conflicted. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and figure out these colors, and hopefully I do that quickly so I can go ahead and get started with the maxi skirt. After a couple of hours playing around with the different colors and looking at maxi skirts for inspiration, I decided to just make the maxi skirt white. I knew I wanted it to be really ruffly and be super cute and fairy-like and big like the maxi skirts I see all the time on Pinterest, but knitting is completely different from crochet, and even though I've gained a bit of knitting skills and have made my own crochet maxi skirts, I still have a long way to go in my learning. Before I even started, I first made a little swatch with garter stitch since that's the stitch I wanted the waistband to be, and then did a little mathy math and got 108 stitches as my cast on amount. After joining in the round, I worked garter stitch for 10 rows. I tried on the waistband and thankfully it fit perfectly, but I wasn't sure if I was enjoying how the garter stitch was looking. For the waistband, I have 2 options. I could either use this elastic string and put like a couple of them on here and then have it flat like this, and then go ahead and work, or I can put an elastic strip in the middle and then knit it into itself so it's like this in a way, but I'm not sure how I like how that looks, and I'm trying to figure out whether I want this to just be flat out like this, like how it was when I was trying it on, or have it folded. I ended up choosing to use the elastic strip, and because of that, plus the fact that I didn't like the garter stitch, I took the project apart. Instead of the garter stitch, I did regular stockinette stitch instead. With the elastic band, all I did was wrap it around where I wanted the skirt to be on my waist, and then cut that with a little bit extra. I then sewed the 2 ends of the elastic together and then placed it on my waistband section and then knit into the cast on row so that the elastic can be inside the waistband, if that makes sense. At first, I was really struggling to knit into them, as you can see here, but then I realized I could just, use my needle to grab the stitch and then knit them together. So I did that, and it made it a lot easier. And this is what the waistband looked like when it was done. Yesterday, after I finished the waistband, I went ahead and did 3 rows of increasing into every other stitch. But before that, I added this little lifeline. If you can see right here, I added that before I started increasing, just in case I messed up and had to go back, because working on my Kate dress, I learned the hard way that it's important to at least have that there so that when you take the stitches apart, it won't come all the way apart. It'll just come off until wherever you put that lifeline. And so I added another one after the 3 rows of increasing just in case, and now I'm just gonna work stockinette stitch all around. After 3 hours, I had a total of 15 rows done for the body of the skirt, and it just made me want to invest in a knitting machine, but I'm not even sure if you could make skirts like this on a knitting machine. I tried it on to see how it was looking, and it was looking cool, but I was starting to get iffy about if it was even going to turn out how I'd want it to, so I went back to the drawing board. I made tiny swatches of the different colors I wanted to use and drew up some designs and decided to make a striped maxi skirt but with no ruffles. I decided to use these 4 colors since they look cute together, and I really wanted to incorporate the green and orange yarn together. I took the white skirt prototype apart, and while feeling more confident about the new version of the project, got all my materials together including the already made elastic and got ready to begin. After finishing the waistband the same way I did before, I increased into every other stitch for 1 row. Okay, so I know I said I was gonna do those 4 colors that I showed earlier, but I was looking at this and I was just thinking this being like a full solid orange skirt would be really cute. So what I'm gonna do is I already added a lifeline after my increases, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go with the colors, do them for a couple of color changes and stuff like that, and then I'm gonna take a picture, take it apart, and then do a little bit of it just like a solid orange. Take a picture, take it apart, I'll try them both on and then see whichever I like, and then whichever I choose, that's gonna be the one that I do. You know which one I do because you've seen the thumbnail, but me, I don't know. So I think this is the only way for me to decide. I really like the colors that I chose, but I really like how this yarn is, and just this looks really cute, and I think it would be really cute as a solid orange skirt. I literally couldn't decide at all, so I just used a decision maker for a best out of 5 and solid 1, so I went ahead and continued to knit with the orange color for the rest of the skirt. After 10 rows, I tried on the skirt and was happy that it fit. It was a bit more frilly than I'd like, but I kept on working on it. As I continued to work on the skirt, I binge watched Outer Banks. I'm doing a thing right now where I mainly watch films and shows that remind me of summer, and I started with OBX since I've only seen the first season when it first came out. But throughout working on the skirt, I ended up finishing the show, and it was cool. The plot armor on the main cast is anime level, but it was still enjoyable. After 200 rows, I did 2 rows of ribbing and then casted off the skirt. I finally finished the skirt after a total of 3 days, and I am so happy with how it came out. I was this close to just saying, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore, I'm gonna figure out something else to do, but I'm really happy that I stuck with it because it's really cute. I knew it was gonna look really nice as a maxi skirt, and it does look nice as a maxi skirt to me. I don't know if I said this earlier or not, but while I was working on the skirt, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do a top that would work perfectly with it, and so I was thinking about making maybe like a cropped baby tee raglan top. Like I'll just do the raglan increases and then have like short sleeves here and maybe stop mid-waist, and then I want to do like a graphic in the middle that kind of correlates with the skirt. And so remember how I was talking about doing the skirt with these colors? I'm thinking that for the graph I'll use these colors as well as whatever extra orange I have with this, and then everything will correlate. So I'm gonna go ahead and eat and get started on the shirt. To figure out the raglan cast on, all I did was first create a swatch with 20 stitches and measured the width of the swatch, which ended up being 5 inches. I then measured the area where the collar would be, which was 18 inches. With those numbers, I did cross multiplication and multiplied my stitch amount by my collar measurement, which was 360. Then I divided 360 by my swatch width, which ended up being 72, and just for safety, I rounded up to 74, and that ended up being my cast on amount. With 4mm needles, I casted on 74, and then worked 4 rows of ribbing in the round. I then separated the neck by making sure there were 24 stitches for the front and back, and then 13 stitches for the arms. To figure out how many stitches should be in the front and back and the arms, all I did was subtract 74 by 8. The number 8 comes from the 4 sections that has 2 increases. 74 minus 8 gave me 66, which is the total number of stitches I have to separate for the sections. So since there are 4 sections, which are the 2 arms on the sides and the front and the back, I divided 66 by 3. 3 comes from the arm sections and 1 of the front or back sections. 66 divided by 3 is 22, but I wanted to be safe, so I rounded up to 24. I added 24 stitches for the front and the back, and then divided 24 by 2, which gave me 12, which I rounded up to 13, and that gave me all my sections. So my arm sections are 13 stitches wide, my front and back sections are 24 stitches wide, and then in each corner I have 2 increases, which all adds up to 74. Switching to my 5mm needles, I knitted one row normally with stockinette stitch. For the second row, I knitted down normally until the stitch before the stitch marker. In the space between the last stitch and the stitch I just knitted, I did a make one right increase by taking my needle and going into the back of that stitch and then knitting into it normally. The next stitch I knitted normally and then pushed the stitch marker to the other needle. In that space between the stitch after the stitch marker, I pushed my needle into it from the front and then knitted into that normally. I repeated this for every stitch marker for the second row. On the third row, I knitted every stitch normally. For the shirt, all I did was alternate between an increase row and a normal row until I got to row 30. Once I finished my increase rows, I separated the arms from the body of the top by first knitting normally until I got to the stitch markers. Then I took a tapestry needle and a scrap piece of yarn and placed the arm sections onto the scrap yarn to keep them out the way. I casted on 4 stitches onto my needle and then knitted into the second side of the body section, which connects the body together without the arms. I repeated this for the rest of the body, and once it was done, it was starting to look like a shirt, which made me really excited. I continued to knit around to increase the length of the body while still trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the graphic. After finishing a total of 70 rows, I added 2 rows of ribbing to the bottom and the sleeves before casting off. After, I immediately went ahead and began working on the bag before the graph, since I honestly haven't figured out what I wanted to do with the graph just yet. For the tote bag, all I did was cast on 80, then worked stockinette stitch for 10 rows before folding it over and attaching it into itself like I did with the maxi skirt. I then continued to work stockinette stitch for 70 rows while watching YouTube. After I finished the 70 rows and cast it off, I sewed the bottom of the back together and then got started on the handle, which I casted on 24 and worked stockinette stitch for 200 rows. On row 200, I worked into the cast on row to make the handle connect and be a lot stronger. I then took the sides and sewed it on to the inside of the bag, and the bag was complete. The last thing I had to do was make the graphic for the baby tee, and after days of contemplation, I decided on this one I found on Pinterest. I thought the graph fits the summer vibe of the outfit, plus I can change up the colors, so I played around on Procreate and ended up choosing an orange flower with a beige center. After numbering the graph, I went ahead and began using the duplicate stitch method to add the graph to the center of the top. Making the graph was pretty easy, and while I did this, I was thinking about whether or not I should go back to my old recreations and try to remake them, since I've gained more understanding on how to do graphs and make sweaters better and everything. I just think that might be fun to do. Around 4 hours later, I finished up the graph and my entire knitted outfit was finally complete. Here is what the entire outfit came out to look like, and you guys, I'm so proud of myself. I was a little scared to do this challenge since I've never knitted any of the pieces I ended up doing, but it was strange. Like, everything ended up being incredibly easy to figure out. I didn't need a pattern or anything besides the flower graph, and even though it took some time to make the pieces, it went by without many issues besides me starting over due to overthinking the designs. Starting with the skirt, I just want to say that I'm so happy I decided to do the solid color, or rather, I'm happy that the spin machine chose it for me. The details in the yarn that I used made it look like a LaCroix can, but it also reminded me of summer and playfulness, and I'm also happy that I kept going to make it a maxi skirt. I don't think this skirt would have worked for me if it was a mini or a midi skirt. The only thing though is that I'll have to add some elastic string because I've been working out a lot these days and I'm already having to pull up the skirt a lot due to that, but that's no issue at all. I could just weave it in and out on the inside of the ribbing. With the top, I knew I wanted to do a graph in the middle, but it was actually harder than I thought picking out which one I wanted. At first I wanted a really intense graph with many different details and elements, but I ended up with the flower, which I'm really happy about since the simple graph took me almost 4 to 5 hours to complete, and anything bigger would have just wiped me out. Had I thought of the graph beforehand, I would have maybe made the ribbing on the shirt the orange color so it could match better, but I still truly love this shirt. It fits perfectly, the underarm is comfortable, and I'm already thinking of making a couple others. I almost restarted the bag due to not knowing if I wanted to do that color or not, because the yarn that I used was a gradient yarn, but the colors weren't changing as frequently pretty as I wanted them to, so I was constantly cutting the yarn and adding the next section in. I'm glad I stuck with the color though. I think it blends in well with the outfit, and it's a versatile bag for any of the outfits I choose to wear. Overall, I truly love the pieces I made for this little challenge, and I'm happy with the skills that I learned during the process. It fits the summer season, and these are pieces that I'm going to be wearing pretty often. Before we go, I want to say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that allows you to create your own website for any of your creative endeavors, whether it be to start your own shop or to just show off your artistic portfolio. Squarespace offers numerous amounts of pre-made templates to get you started with your website and allows you to customize it to your heart's desire with their easy-to-use interface. If you're looking to create an online shop where you sell physical or even digital products, using their commerce tool allows you to have complete control of how everything operates. A feature that I think is really cool is the customizable newsletter you can make to send to your customers whenever you have a sale or a promotion going on, or to just keep the interactions going more directly. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your website, go to squarespace.com/ikoxun for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.